Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self. Good morning, badass.
Good morning. How are you?
I am doing well. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
I am on vacation next week.
I know. Are you super excited?
I am. I am, because it is it's a long time coming. So we have not, Jenna and I vacation, or we do, little getaways quite often because we homeschool our kids and they're always with us, right? So but we have not since December. So we are really looking forward to this. And we're going all out. We're getting massages and the whole 9 yards, and we're super excited. So,
oh my gosh, that sounds so amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's so cool. And then you get to start off with Mother's Day weekend as well.
Yes. The funny thing is we're not even looking forward to that, because we're like, get us out of here. Get us out of here. So, and we're not, it'll be fun no matter what, but we're putting we're not getting each other gifts or anything, because we're putting our focus and our money into this little trip. So, and then two of our kids, our older kids have to work, so it's it's different, so
it's a different dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you doing for Mother's Day?
Preferably as little as possible. They're not opening the pool. Normally they open the pool the weekend of Mother's Day, and they decided they're doing it next weekend. So I don't know. I actually have nothing planned. My husband and I decided that we would get for Mother's Day and Father's Day a new grill. And so that was our gift. Even though he uses it, I get the reward. Right. Of it. So we needed a new grill, so that was our Mother's Day and Father's Day present.
Did you get the flat top, or you guys already had a flat top, right?
Yeah, this is the other grill, for when you want to see the lines on the burger or the chicken or whatever. So that we needed a new grill for that, just because he uses it a lot, and he was starting to see some issues with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we have some people coming in.
Yes.
Carmen, good morning. My favorite beautiful badasses. Happy Friday. Let's go.
Hi, Carmen. Good to see you.
I get to see Miss Carmen and Miss Myra. Good morning, ladies. I get to see them in a few weeks. So in June for Carmen's daughter's graduation. So I'm super excited about that. We're finalizing plans for that. And Miss Kim coming in, she said, good morning and happy Friday to my favorite, beautiful, and amazing badass ladies. Good morning to Miss Kim. J Rose, she says, good morning. Getting excited for you and your trip, Kate. You two deserve it. And I'm off and on today, listening when I can. You badasses are brightening up my day. Thank you. Have a good weekend. And Miss Jen brightened up my day the other day. She sent a really nice song. I was just having a really nice morning and just feeling, I don't know, there was something about the morning that I was just feeling very grateful for, and I ended up posting about it. My husband, I went across the catwalk up the top, and he was sitting downstairs, and he saw me walking across, and I didn't put this in the post, but I was butt naked. And I went across to go wake up my daughter because it was time for her to get up. And so I went, and he was like, ooh. And so he came up and he was like, I need a hug. So we came upstairs, and then I was waking up my daughter because I had agreed that we would take her into school late because she stayed up with us late for her friend's birthday party. And I was sitting there singing karaoke as well. And so I was doing some songs that I had never done, that they had never seen. So I did I Hope You Dance by Leanne Womack. And I just saw him in the audience, just like looking like he was just like, ooh, like he had a different look about him. And then I did Cult of Personality and was just headbanging to that. Do you know that song?
No. Who's that by?
Oh my gosh. Living Color, look in my eyes. What?
Oh,
see?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that song and I was, just headbanging to it as I was singing it on the stage.
That's amazing. I would have loved. So this was your friends and like whose birthday party was this?
Jamie across the street. So
Okay. So
they had it and it just happened to coincide with a karaoke night.
Nice.
Yeah.
Too fun. Okay.
So awesome. Riley was like, I'm tired. And I'm like, well, if you wait and stay up late with us, I'll take you into school later. And she was like, okay.
I love it.
Oh, I'm such an amazing and bad mom all at the same time.
You're like, I don't want to leave and take you home. Right?
Exactly.
Totally. Yeah. That's
and Jay had been drinking, so he couldn't take her home because I had to drive.
Right.
So I was like, all right, can you stay up with us? I got one more song.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Come on, girl, party with us.
Yep.
All right. Amazing. We also have Cindy coming in. Morning, ladies, celebrating my 20 years at Firm today. Congratulations,
wow.
Cindy.
Congrats.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is badass.
Yeah, that's super badass.
And then Nervy Driver would love to see the girls, give them hugs for me. Happy Mother's Day. This is so happy Mother's Day. You actually have something you should receive tomorrow, by the way. Thank you for the note today. I did get that, so thank you.
Aw.
And then also just happy Mother's Days to everyone that is coming in today as well and joining us.
And I keep forgetting to share this, and I actually want to make a post about it.
Oh.
But my dad, he's cleaning out his house because he's decided to move.
Right.
He found a letter that my mom wrote to us in 2014. She dated it, and it says, "To my children and their children." And it's this 4-page letter about her journey to self-love. Aww. And it was such a cool gift. He just found it in her stuff. She was a big writer. And so she had stuff. She was always handwriting stuff, and but it was just extra cool to just get this, 4.5 years after her death, to just get this thing, out of nowhere. Wow. Yeah. So we hadn't seen it, she clearly didn't give it to us when she wrote it in 2014, and so maybe she, who knows, and maybe she then forgot about it. But my dad found it and he scanned it in and sent it to all of us, and it was really cool. So it was definitely a gift from the other side.
I was going to say, it was, probably at the moment that it was meant to be seen.
Yeah.
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 That's so beautiful.
It was. Yeah. So I'm, so I'm kind of it was just in time for Mother's Day, and we have it on, we kind of have it on display on one of our altars in the house, and it's pretty cool. And the kids, it's foreign language to them, though. They're because it's in cursive, so they're what is this?
Things we have not been taught.
Yes. And Oscar, the oldest one, he so I read it for our kids, and then I called Oscar and I was like, "Do you want me to read this to you? Because it is in cursive." He's like, "No." He's like, "I'm only a third of the way through it, but I'm really loving this challenge."
Oh my God.
Okay.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
We also have Margaret coming in. She says, happy morning. She also says, I was late due to a session. No problem, Margaret. She said, thank you for being here and all you give. So thank you for joining us. And then Cindy said, happy Mom's Day to you too.
Aw, thank you. I joined Margaret's last jam session and enjoyed it and made some comments. And then I got a notification on LinkedIn that she had commented back, but I could not find that comment again.
Oh.
So it was very interesting, but it was fun. And I think I'm going to try to join them more often if I. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, let's do this. Today, we're going to be talking about the law of cause and effect, and we're going to be interviewing Nate Price. So let's bring him up on the stage. Give me just a second. Good morning, Nate.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. And for those that don't know, Nate, this is his second time joining us. He joined in a panel, and I guess, Nate, you and I met. I feel like it's almost 2 years now. Is that right? Or is it a year and a half?
So through all of Jen and Jesse's stuff, I think we've been connected for a couple years now, maybe longer.
Yeah, I think longer, because you were doing that before we started this.
No.
Yes. I was. Sorry.
Oh yeah, but us meeting, I met him after we started this.
Okay.
And so, and both of you have been to my cabin. And so Nate came part of the No BS tribe. So I had a particular event that I had them there, and Nate, I got to meet him in person as well, to be able to get to know him a little bit more. And so, Nate, what we first want to do is just have the audience get to know you a little bit more. So maybe if you could just first focus on, who is Nate Price and what are you passionate about?
I'm naturally a redhead, so I tend to be passionate in general. I'm a retired naval officer. I'm a lifelong soccer player. I started playing soccer when I was 3, and I still play as a 51-year-old. I ref soccer whenever I can. I speak multiple languages. I love connecting with other people. I'm a civil engineer by degree and a builder by discipline. I enjoy building things, whether it's working in the house or working at work. Just seeing things come out of someone's brain and get built into a thing it's magical. I love seeing it. I think my biggest, most recent passion is I'm working on my PhD. That was a long time coming. I've been looking at leadership in engineers and how engineers can better develop leadership for 18 years now. Yikes. And started a PhD last year. And so I'm a year in and I'm fixing to start my study. Going to do some interviews, I hope, if I can get board approval. But, I am a father of 5, living in the military. We were a exceptionally tight group. I've got an amazing wife that has put up with my shit for 31 years and has, helped me succeed in the military. And now we're settled in Cleveland and not really retired for sure. It's nice to have a military pension, but it doesn't cover everything.
Right.
So,
how cool.
Cats. So,
how many cats do you have? I saw the giant one.
So Finlear, he's actually a grand kitten, but he can't live with my son anymore. So he's mine now, and I'm okay with that. We had a cat named Tom that we had for 14 years. He passed away last summer, unfortunately, but he lived a good life. He was a great cat. And then each of the kids, and I think maybe the love of cats is genetic, because each of my kids has cat or cats. So at any given time, I may have, I think just recently I had 6 grandkittens in the house all at once. So
I think when you live with a cat lover, you end up loving cats. Like that's in my experience. Jenna is definitely a cat lover, and each of our kids are. I mean, it is. So we've had so many cats because we've lived on farms before, so we had lots of cats.
Yes.
Now in the city, we only have 3. We're only supposed to have 2. And it is like a struggle for me to be like, no more cats, no more cats. Remember, it's actually illegal. Like no more cats. Yeah. But like Oscar, the very first thing he did when he got his new apartment, day 2, is he went to the Humane Society and adopted a cat, and has an Instagram for him. And, and my other kids are the same. They're already talking about, what cats they're going to get or which one they're going to take. And so, yeah, that's so funny. So they literally will bring their cats over to your house when they come to visit.
Yeah. And I'll cat sit while they go on trips and stuff like that. I think one of the good things about cats, though, is if you are going away overnight, the cat will be okay. If you leave it alone. A dog, not so much, but the cat will be okay. But for longer trips, and for, my oldest daughter lives here in town, and every once in a while, Teeps will just show up, and Abby will have snuck her into the house and left without saying anything. And all of a sudden, Teeps is running around.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I saw recently that something that said people own dogs, cats own people.
Yeah.
And if you've never owned a cat, I think you won't get the analogy, or you won't really totally get it. Cats, sort of rule the roof and decide what it is they want, where dogs are just very unconditional love and will do anything.
I was talking with a group of cat lovers earlier this week, and one of the things that I was talking about and that we were talking about was, it's not so much that cats are hard to train, it's just that they're really good at training us.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right. Well, I want to jump into the topic of law of cause and effect, but before we get there, I thought we might just find out a little bit more about you and understand maybe some of the things that have gone on in your life. So maybe talk a little bit about key moments in your life that sort of made Nate who you are today.
Yeah. My first real memory of life is actually when I learned about soccer as a 2.5-year-old. I was at my aunt's college in South Georgia, and I was in the college gym, and her roommate and a girl that lived across the hall taught me how to play soccer with a volley. And it was an important part of who I was, and soccer still is a therapy space for me, a safe space for me. I go out there and everything else just kind of falls away. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and had family around. And there were rough spots in childhood that I think we all go through, some more than others. Probably the first big thing that I recognized as a trauma in my life, because I didn't really see what happened to me as a child as trauma until much later in life. But when I was 18, I saw a young girl die. And that put me on this path and really solidified my drive to be a rescuer. In college and in the military, I volunteered as an EMT. I worked on advanced life-saving techniques. On my first ship, I would help out with minor surgeries and stuff like that on the ship. In 2007, 2006, 14 years later, I was in middle of Michigan and came across my uncle's neighbor. Older guy was laying on the ground, purple from the waist up. And he was in anaphylactic shock. He had bit through a portion of his tongue. And I stepped right in. I was carrying my daughter, my younger daughter, Ellie, at the time, put her down. And I'm sorry, I set her on the ground. I set Ellie on the ground. I didn't, we were talking about pets and then talking about putting one of my children down. Set Ellie down, and then started to resuscitate, and I kept him alive. Had a long conversation with God while I was doing it.
Wow.
Michigan, they are a volunteer rescue and firefighting area. And so the first volunteer crew was on the way. They were talking on the phone to Butch's, that was the guy's name, Butch's wife. And as they pulled up to an intersection, a pickup truck T-boned the car in front of them.
No.
And they're not allowed to drive past that no matter what.
Right.
And so they had to stop, and the second box that had been sent, the second rescue truck that had been sent, was another 25 minutes away. And so I thought I was going to be done at 22 minutes. I kept Butch alive for 44 minutes.
Wow.
It was a long time.
Yeah.
The thing that struck me afterwards was two things. One, the doctors pulled 200 stingers out of his torso before they stopped counting. And that was just in his upper body. So they didn't keep counting. He had stepped on the yellow jacket's nest and was only wearing a pair of swim trunks. He was 72 years old, was 15 months post heart surgery. Butch lived for another 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah. The hardest part of that day is that it didn't save the little girl. And that was kind of this huge awakening and for me, that, it wasn't about the little girl. That whole series of events was quite likely for Butch. The idea that in the middle of nowhere, Georgia, I see a young girl die, and then 14 years later, in the middle of nowhere, Michigan, I save a guy's life.
Yeah.
And being in the military, we take on this warrior, this rescuer, this great role in society. And it was fantastic being in the military and helping out the way we could help out and where we could help out. It was only after I left the military, retired in 2020, that I started to wonder about belonging and where I belonged. And, that was when I started to look back at my childhood and see how joining the military was, to some extent, me running away from home as an 18-year-old and looking to belong somewhere. And the military is easy to belong to. You follow the orders, you get to belong. That's, not much better deal than that. You follow the orders, you get to belong. The military people might be uncomfortable with this, but I like to point out to them that the military is a socialist contract. You follow the rules and you get free food. You follow the rules, you get health care. You follow the rules, they clothe you. You follow the rules, they give you a place to live. Which is socialism. But don't tell Marines that I think that they're the highest functioning social organization in the world. So
I'm going to.
Yeah. It's a delicate topic for sure.
Yes.
And they even get free education and all these things.
It's a social contract.
That's right.
Clear as day.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the on a security clearance, when you apply for a security clearance, you have to write whether or not you're part of any socialist organizations or you're involved in any communist activities and stuff like that. And for 20 years, I would ask the question, wait, socialist, do you mean like not the military socialist?
Right.
That's a socialist organization. Now, granted, we're not about the downfall of the United States. So I just want to be clear here that,
Right. Well, it is. And I mean, it's a total side topic, but I mean, like, it's a form of government or, ruling or society. It's not like socialism in general. It just became defined that way in the Cold War, but it's not, it doesn't mean that you hate your country.
Yeah, that's right. And I started learning languages in high school, and I figured out after a few years in the military that I was really good at picking them up because I learned French and then was using my French on my first ship, and then moved to Japan and picked up Japanese while we were living in Japan, and then went on a deployment to Iraq and picked up some Arabic and Turkish and Kurdish.
Wow.
While I was there, lived in Italy, got to learn Italian. So that helped me understand a little more of my desire to belong, because no matter where I went, I wanted to connect with the people around me. I wanted to experience some of their life. I wanted to be, someone who was involved in what they did and paid homage to what their culture was and respected who they were within their own house, their region, the nation, non-state culture, whatever it was. I wanted to experience some of that. And that's something that has always been a driver for me, is that opportunity to, if I'm going somewhere and they speak a different language, I go learn yes, no, hello, bye, good afternoon, please, thank you, and where is.
Yeah.
That, and that's everywhere I travel. And then I got rid of my Georgia accent as a 7th grader, but it comes in handy to be able to drop into a Georgia accent. If you can drop right into a Georgia accent and you're talking to a Georgia state trooper, it comes very handy. to be able to say, well, yes, sir, I know my driver's license says Ohio, but I'm actually from Austell, Georgia. Yes, sir, it's in South Cobb County. It's just west of Atlanta. Yes, sir. Yeah. But it also applies in Texas. Like if you're out in West Texas and you got a Texas state trooper that's pulled you over, you might slow down your speech just a little bit when you're talking to him to make it sound like you're a little bit closer to where he is in the world.
This is all great advice.
Yeah.
Kate's like, I wish I knew that when I visited Texas.
Yeah. Like,
note
to self.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Nate, I'm thinking about all the things that you've been talking about, and with the law of cause and effect, it's something just connected with me. You said you want to, one of the things you wanted in life is to be able to connect. You wanted belonging, you wanted connection with people. And I think about the different things that I know about you. But that really sort of stood out to me. And when we think about the law of cause and effect, it's really about the energy you put into the universe, whether positive or negative, will eventually return to us, along with, every action or decision leading to a corresponding reaction and outcome in your life. And so when I started to think about those types of things, and I mentioned this earlier, is that sometimes we ask for something, ask the universe for something. And so I saw this the other day. I want strength, but instead you get struggles. So I was curious, as you were saying, I wanted belonging or I wanted a connection. I'm thinking about like the what it is the universe might actually bring you versus connection. And I'm thinking about you connecting with this man, but it was in a very, it ended up being you're saving his life. It's one of the most intimate aspects of, sitting there trying to save this person's life for 45 minutes in keeping this person. So that's like a connection you will always have with this person, but not in a way that we probably initially intended in connection. And so I'm just wondering if there are other things in your life that you have seen, this law manifest itself, but maybe not in the way you thought that it was going to manifest itself.
For sure. That desire to connect and that interest in looking at how engineers lead and what's involved in that, and how we as engineers could lead better. I know that they're not all like that, and yes, I'm generalizing, but engineers are good with calculators. They're not so good with humans. And when I was in a leadership position in the Navy, I tried to approach troop leadership from a people-centered perspective. Mm-hmm. We have jobs to do, and we rely on people to do them. So why not emphasize the people as opposed to the jobs? Mm-hmm. I was actually, we were in the process of someone leaving the military, and they were leaving for administrative reasons, not for performance reasons. And he pulled me aside as he was getting ready to go, and he told me, he said, you're different than I've ever experienced before in a leader. And he actually referred back to a friend of his had been had threatened suicide and locked himself in his barracks room. And Pete, I'm protecting the guy's name, but Pete was like, the way you handled that, the way you engaged with him, and the way you handled talking with friends about that was not something I've ever seen done. And he said, you don't know the impact you had, but it's something that we have talked about. And, you know, it's like, if that happens once in your career, it's made it all worthwhile.
Right.
And I got nothing out of it. That there wasn't a physical thing. There wasn't something other than reassurance that I was doing the right things. That by putting people first, by engaging in that way, I was making sure that the people saw that that's what I cared about. And, you know, that, like, I had no idea that might come back around. And 4 or 5 months later to have him bring that up as he's in the process of being pushed out of the Navy.
Wow.
You know, I mean, if someone's got any time or place where they're going to be grumpy about what's going on in the Navy, you know, that's that time and place. But you know, we were in the middle of cutbacks, and he was being asked to leave the Navy, and that's what he thought to tell me was that I had helped, that I had been there, that I had paid attention to, and you know, fought for the people, and not necessarily for anything else. So
I think a lot of times there was a lot of unseen impact. When we think about the law of cause and effect, sometimes we don't understand the effect. And we actually just posted about this, is that, you know, when we are vulnerable, when we open up and tell our story, sometimes we don't immediately see the impact that we have. And sometimes we'll never see the impact that we have on people, but there is an effect with people. And sometimes when we are doing certain things, it will then lead to other people changing or reevaluating how it is that that they move about. So imagine with the things that you were doing, you're demonstrating that it's about people, you know, connecting with people and putting that as the priority. And imagine how it could potentially flip someone's thought process in what it is that they're also doing.
Yeah. And it's even within the last few years, getting out of the military, discovering this desire for belonging, really spending time looking at trauma that I experienced in childhood, and starting to develop a meditation and breathing practice, I started to recognize that I saw things differently. I saw people differently. And I, unfortunately, in September of 2023, our middle daughter killed herself, and I'm the one that found her. I would give anything for all time to ensure that I was the one that found her, and not my wife, not one of my other kids.
Right.
And the hard part for me as a rescuer was all the preparation that I did in the military, all those times that I was a first or second responder to a suicide ideation, to a suicide attempt, all the training that I went through for suicidal tendency identification, and helping people through that. And, you know, and my daughter killed herself. None of that could have prepared for finding her.
Right.
But what did prepare me was getting out of the military and recognizing my drive to belong, and recognizing how I saw people differently now, and having a breathing and meditation practice. I couldn't have been more ready Not that I was preparing for her death, but I could not have been more ready for her death. And my therapist has been phenomenal through the whole series. I'm so blessed, lucky, gifted to have someone like them in my life. And the other piece that my therapist has helped me recognize is that seeing people differently, that recognizing that there's more to just this corporal body that we have. There's more to our energy and our spirit in the world than we realize, and we're all connected. That's the first universal law, is the connection, and it's all tied in. And that ability to see things differently, I believe, is what gave me probably the most solace after Mara died. The morning she died, I was standing in the kitchen, and I saw her. This is after she's died, this is probably 5 hours later, standing in the kitchen, trying to figure out what the hell has happened. And I saw her walk through the kitchen.
Wow.
And she walked the path that she would have walked to go down to the basement, which is where she killed herself. And I can't say happy, but like almost whimsically content is what she was.
Huh.
She walked through the kitchen, showing me that that's where she was going, that was her path. And
wow.
For several hours that day, I was like, oh, that's just me wanting her back. That's what that is. The next day, I was sitting at the end of the dining room table with my back to the window and looking at the other side of the dining room. And I saw her again walk through. Again, that same commitment and contentedness, and the lack of fear. She knew what she was doing, and it was on purpose. Now, as a parent that's moved around with 5 kids that I love very dearly, one of the things that I didn't always do great at, but I always tried to do, was give the kids the best of what Nikki or I could give them. And when they're children, that means something different than when they're 23 years old.
Right.
And, we recognize that even before Mara's death, that our job was to give our kids the best of what they thought was best for them. And that's such a weird tweak to the idea of parenting, is you're doing your best to give them the best that you can give them. And then they decide what's best for them. And then you got to give them the best of that. And Mara decided what was best for her. And that, those 2 experiences of seeing her, and I've seen her, images of her, flashes of her, since then. As we do, we have memories that do wonderful things and terrible things for us. But I could have never imagined that the inner work that I was doing from June of 2020 when I left the military to September of 23 when she died, I could never imagine that that work was there to prepare me for her death.
Right.
And it's not fun. I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
No.
And I'm getting more vocal about her death, and I've posted on LinkedIn about it recently, and the response that I got from people felt good to get that response and love and support from friends and peers and colleagues and LinkedIn buddies that I've never actually met. But the greater reward, the greater effect that I received is 5 different people came to me and said, "I'm glad you brought that up. I need help."
Wow.
And they talked about their own struggles with suicide, which I've had my struggles with it. They talked about their own struggles with depression, but more importantly, they talked about helping their kids. They talked about making this a talking point in the public. More men as veterans kill themselves than the general population. More men in the construction industry kill themselves than die by accidents in construction. One of the most dangerous industries there is, and still more men die by suicide than by any other accident. And it's higher than the general population. And so construction brings in a lot of veterans. So are they 2 times more likely and 2 times more likely? So, 4 times more. And it's got to be talked about. It's got to be brought up. It's got to be a conversation piece. It's a strong enough to care kind of thing.
Right.
Had a coworker in a construction battalion, and he would sign emails, and this was back when email was still young in 2004, 2005 timeframe. He would sign emails LYNS. And he did it for a while before someone asked him, and he's like, "Oh, that says love you, no shit." But that's just the manly, and again, this is 2004, 2005, and that's just the manly non-gay way of me telling you that I love you.
Oh,
He would sign emails LYNS.
I love it.
And it was probably my first experience in the military of that sort of public addressing of this need for adult men to be okay, telling each other that they love them and that they want to be around them, and that this idea of hidden caring in the masculine spaces, it's bullshit. And that I couldn't take that on. I couldn't be that person that looks to communicate with people and has this drive to connect and belong in different cultures, and also have these things happen to me that help me to use my gift to communicate, my gift to see people, to connect with these other people. We see posts on LinkedIn all the time, but how often does someone reach back out to you and say, "Man, you may have saved my life with your post."
Wow. Yeah.
You gave me someone to talk to. about what's going on in my life. And that's another one of those, chalk it up to, if you will, the reason behind leadership is that deeper, more spiritual, more center of your heart and soul experience of just knowing that you showed caring and kindness and love to someone when they needed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You have definitely touched some people that are here. Nick just said, as you were speaking, I have goosebumps. She also said that she's going to steal LN or LYNS. Oh, she said borrow, but I'm saying steal. And then Margaret, she said, so true. We are all connected, no matter who we are and what it is that we go through. And then she also just, wanted you to know that she was sending you her deepest sympathies to you and your lovely wife and family.
Thank you.
So, whenever I think about this particular, the things that you went through, and you touched upon some things as well that were sort of by the way. If you decide you want to get into those, we can. But whenever I think about the impact, a lot of times when something negative happens to us, something very traumatic, we think about, with the law of cause and effect, we think, okay, well, why did that happen to me? Why me? In scenarios. And as you started to sort of experience the why you might be, because you're meant to serve other individuals in what it is that you're doing. So think about, when we think about the law of cause and effect, we don't sometimes know why it is that we've gone down the path that we've gone. And you pointed out some things that you were like, I did like preparation and had no idea I was preparing for this thing that was about to happen to me. And then as things happened, continued to unveil itself. And it's even more appropriate that ended up being the name of today's topic, unveiling cause and effect. It's sometimes we don't even know the effect until much later,
right,
in what it is that we're doing. And so for me, you seeing your daughter, being able to see your daughter, and I know I consider this a gift, something else that you have. And if you feel comfortable in sharing it, there's another gift that I think that you have. And I just wonder how it plays into the bigger aspect of being able to read people, being able to help people and connect with people. Like, I'm thinking about all the things that you've said, and I'm curious, where you think that, ends up playing down the road.
Yeah. And again, I'm 51 years old and I'm figuring shit out that I wish I had known when I was younger.
right.
But I also know that I believe to a very, very deep level that the present moment is inevitable. It wouldn't have occurred if it wasn't inevitable. And that's a mind-blowing concept, but it also brings everything back together too, in a very simple and small way, that you're going to experience life a certain way and you get to make decisions and you get to move around. But how much of those decisions are you really making, or is the universe giving to you? What all is in there? If you pick a faith, they all have this sense of timelessness and infinitesimal smallness of our existence. The what is it? God, I knew you in the blink of an eye. And so that all of our lives, how many blinks do we have in our lives, and this concept of a blink in the eye. But for me, only recently have I recognized that I've been taking in what other people felt but associating it with what I was seeing, and really starting to split apart that idea of what is sensing and what is receiving. Like I can see a pen on a table, but I haven't picked it up yet. And so in sensing how other people are and sensing what they have going on or what may be occurring within and around them, I'm starting to figure out how to not take it on. See it and recognize it, but not have it be mine. And the idea of active listening, fairly forward concept in the early efforts of active listening coming out into the world, but now a fairly well recognized and respected approach to conversations is, being active in your listening. Are you only using your ears? Are you actively listening with your heart? Are you actively listening with your soul? And is your spirit actively listening to this person? And can you recognize that some of the things you hear will make you feel one way? Some of the things you feel will make you feel another way. And trying to discern what people are going through, where they are when you're talking to them. And it's not an all the time thing. That I'm sitting there listening with my soul in every conversation I'm in, but it's recognizing that I have that ability to listen at a deeper level, to connect at a deeper level. And that's I feel like it's guiding my desires around getting a PhD to help others connect this way. I feel like it's guiding me as a coach to help teach other people to see that there's more to listening than just your ears. There's more to observing than just your eyes.
Yeah.
How many times have you been up and down the stairs, Sarah? Hundreds, thousands. How many stairs are there? You've experienced it over and over and over.
I think it's 16, just so you know.
Yeah.
I'll have to check.
Yeah.
Yes. Like even driving, we get on automatic, as we start driving and things like that. I have some other comments coming in, and I want to get back to this, but I'm late, but good badass morning. Welcome, Eric. Divine is here. She said, kindness, love, grace, and devotion is presence. In presence, be the peace and solution. Cause and effect is such a deep dive for sure. Requires a deeper understanding with compassion to shift it. And she also said, yes, nothing is coincidence. We may pick up patterns, but we can always put them down. Ooh.
Yeah.
And then listening with your heart, soul, and spirit equals compassion with no judgment. I love that. And then that was deep on other ways to observe than with our eyes and ears. And so I want to sort of go to that.
Yeah.
So for me, I can tell you, I've always felt like I'm intuitive, that I can have a conversation with people and feel things that it's sort of a knowing. I don't have, it isn't, and it's like what you were saying, it's like you hear something, but you're hearing something deeper, in a different way. I would say it's also like a vibe or just knowing that something else is going on, in things whenever I have really deep conversations. I don't necessarily pick up from a seeing perspective, like auras or anything like that. Everybody has like their own things that they see. And I'm curious, even Cate, for you, if there are things that you're a really good active listener as well. And if there are, when we talk about seeing beyond our ears and beyond our eyes, if there's other things, other senses that either of you have really tapped into.
For me, I think active listening is just as much about feeling than it is about anything else. But for me, it starts with a lot of curiosity and genuine desire to know. So I feel like I have a strong intuition about knowing when people are in pain, or about knowing when something else is behind it, or behind an action, or even behind or like what's going on with someone. But I try to be as curious as possible. Like, I found that that's the best way for me to understand, is to truly like ask the right questions and be there for whatever the answer is, and let them know that I will be. So I sometimes wish that I could tap into like a stronger in either like a divine presence or a stronger like intuitive path, because for me it just represents as like an immediate knowing, that someone's in pain. So I just try really hard to be as compassionate as I can and empathetic. I think that is huge for folks, because a lot of people don't listen with their soul. They either are too scared themselves to look at, to hear what they're hearing, and to take it in, or they just simply, maybe don't care. I don't know. But I think it's a really great quality to have and super important. And Nate, as I think about who you are and all the things that you've shared today, you are such a learner, so, you just have this strong desire to learn. And I think that's really evident in the way that you are able to be there for people, because you want to learn what's really going on with them, the way you take on, new languages, everything. So I think having that like learning growth learning mindset is also like a huge part of being able to be a true support for someone.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's, even the idea of referring to myself as a polyglot feels, and telling people, oh, I speak multiple languages, that it feels boastful. It feels like, extra. I'm trying to say that I'm so extra because I speak multiple languages. But someone was like, well, do you? And yes. Okay, well, that's a statement of fact. It's fascinating how we, in our human experience, we have those things where it's a superpower. I had a teacher this week that said, I don't use the word soft skills. I refer to them as power skills. And I love that. And so here's this power skill that I have to pick up languages and pick up intuitively what other people may be going through, and how am I expressing that power? How am I using my powers for good and not evil? It's easy to grab that red lightsaber and join the dark side, but let's stick with the purple or the blue and do better things. And so that idea of learning and continually learning and opening myself up to full experiences. It's only in the last couple of years have I started to see the amount of care and love that exists in the universe, and we don't tap into it. It's there, it's infinite. And I used to say, because I'd get frustrated with work, I would stew over stuff in the office all the time, and I would say, I wish I could care less. And
no.
Right. I'm supposed to care about this stuff. And so what I've started to kind of recognize is that it's not that I need to care less. I can care just as much, but I can sense it without receiving it. Even my own emotions, I can sense them without receiving them. They can happen, and I can watch them move on by, or I can grab onto them and just use them,
right.
or let them consume. And I almost feel like that's helped me experience more around grief and around Mara's death, because I'm able to pick stuff up and hold it for a little bit and then set it back down. And it used to be, I'm sure it still is, it used to be that I recognized the compartmentalization that I was doing.
Right.
And now I don't feel like it's compartmentalizing, because it's not necessarily in me.
Yeah, I think that
it's somewhere else.
Said something real. She said, sometimes we question everything instead of accepting.
Yeah, that's where I was going as well. Like, you just, I think, very accurately described like the feeling you have when you and the difference between compartmentalizing things and radically accepting things, right? And I know that was huge for me too, because I felt things so deeply for so long, and the feeling wasn't the problem. Just like you're saying, that's not the issue. It feels like it's the issue, pun intended, but it's the skills and the reactions you have, and what you do with the feelings, that is what matters, so and nothing teaches you the lesson of radical acceptance like something happening to your child that is way beyond your fucking control, right? Like way beyond. And I've experienced that exact thing, not in the same form you did with Maura, but and you get that's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to fine tune that skill, because when you get good at that, you're able to turn survival back on its tail. You can flip it to thriving, right? Because that the shit and the shit storms that happen in life, they can't affect you as deeply if you know how to radically accept the shit that is completely beyond your control.
Yeah. And it's I can't care less because there's an infinite amount of caring in the world.
Yeah.
In the universe. So it's not going to get less. But I can still care about stuff and not take it on.
Mm-hmm.
Divine complimented. She said, to care less is definitely perspective based with intention. I came to that realization myself. Yeah. So when we, it's like someone said the other day to me, they were like, well, we have defense mechanisms for a purpose. And I'm like, well, we also can learn to deal with those defense mechanisms, the, freeze, fawn, flee, all of fight, all of that instinct is the reptilian. We were also given other aspects to our brain as well to be able to evolve and learn beyond the defense mechanisms. So when you talk about compartmentalizing, I think sometimes we do, but we skip the part of actually feeling and going through the emotions that we're meant to experience and process and figure out, like, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling first before just, shoving it down or instead of shoving it down. It's like these things happen to us for learning. It is evolving. It is for a higher power or a higher purpose in why it is that these things happen. And we don't always know that effect or that, why this happened, the cause of what this happened. We also don't know, with what your daughter did, we don't know the effect on other people, the effect on your wife, on the other, we lost Cate, on the other individuals, within your family and things like that. Why did it do that? It did not. Let me go back to this. Here we go. And so I guess I have to remove Cate to be able to go to the 2. So I'm not sure what happened to hers, but I'm going to the 2 thing. So
I guess we're done.
No. And so Divine also said, care can also come control by being a fixer or a people pleaser. So I had to care less at times. I very much resonate with that. That I've had to, sort of remove myself from situations like, okay, well, I'm not sure, I've got to remove myself from the situation and try to figure out where it is that, where does this fit in my life? Because right now it doesn't fit in my life, And so, it's not that you care less. It's just that there's still a processing of, where does this, how do I adjust, to things? And I think about that even related to like my husband, and when we were early on and dealing with his ex at the time and related to, his child. And it was like, hey, I got to remove myself from this situation because I need you to step up, in that type of situation where I need to take a little bit more of a back seat to things.
Yeah.
So I think, Cate must have internet issues. It looks like she's trying to come back on, but so I want to maybe start to wrap things up and talk about when we think about the law of cause and effect and those ripple effects, or it could even be the butterfly effect, or, the things that happen. I want to just maybe have you summarize or maybe talk about something that you saw that was a delay in how things manifested in your life, or just a final thought on people being patient maybe sometimes, or the process that you have gone through with waiting for that final, the effect to happen. And maybe just finalizing, that particular thought to sort of wrap up the law of cause and effect.
Yeah, the thing that really comes to mind is I used to tell myself and say out loud, let time prove you right. And I've recognized that that's faulted because time may not prove me right. And in fact, it doesn't matter if time proves me right, because whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I mean, it's if the present moment is inevitable, then I got to do what I can, when I can, how I can, and then just let it go.
So letting it go. Welcome back, Cate. So we're just wrapping things up. And so state that again for our audience, just to sort of recap also for Cate.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's back to that whole idea of caring and sensing without receiving, and giving stuff away, putting stuff out there, and just letting it go. And you know, I like very much, and we talked about this pre-show, but the idea not necessarily of a ripple effect, but of a butterfly effect. And the idea that a butterfly flaps its wings and it results in a typhoon or something like that, that feels more like us recognizing that we have no clue how it's going to come back around to us.
Yeah.
We can throw a tennis ball against the wall, and that's a fairly simple idea. We can create a ripple in a pond, and that's a fairly simple idea. You can see it progress, and you know that a bigger ripple will come from a bigger hit, and that, and then that. But the idea that, you know, the butterfly just flaps his wings. That's all the butterfly's doing. It's just flapping his wings. He's looking for the next female butterfly to come by, and a load of pollen. You know, he wants nectar and a girlfriend. That's what is going on for him.
That sounds like my husband. I'm just saying.
Yep.
But that, you know, that I can care and I can do and I can love and I can be there and I can rescue. But I should let those actions just kind of speak for themselves. And I don't need to necessarily carry all the emotional baggage behind each of those things just because I used to.
Yeah.
I think that's profound right there, because I think that's also the effect, is that we sometimes do carry all the baggage that comes along, and whether it's unlearning or learning the why or just digging deeper into ourselves is one of the things that I found that really has helped with the things that I've experienced. Instead of, you know, carrying it as a badge of victimhood, it's carrying it more as a badge of it made me a stronger person, a more intuitive person. It makes me, you know, it gave me these power skills, as you said, you know, earlier, instead of looking at all of the negative aspects of the things that have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if anyone can take some, like, the one thing that somebody could take out of this today is that we don't always know what the cause will be, or what what the effect will be, depending on how you think of the phrase, right? Because so we don't know, right? But we can do what we can. All we can do is try our hardest to grow and to use the skills and to be kind and to accept the things that happen around us, and not to not to let it wreck us, right? And I think when you mentioned, I don't have to do that just because I did in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And you've said a few times, you're 51. You're 5 years older than me. And I have this conversation with our 20-year-old and our 17-year-old, and all the way down quite often is like, I'm so proud of the things you guys are working on right now, that I didn't even know to work on it until I was 40, but it's never too late, right? And there's so many people around us that don't have that mindset, that just kind of stay with the skills they've always had,
Mm-hmm.
and the patterns and behaviors they've always had. And frankly, I pity them. It makes me sad because there's so much more to life, than staying kind of stagnant, right? So we could go down a whole nother topic at that point. But I just think today's discussion around the cause and effect ended up being so much more about openness and mindset and acceptance than I even thought it was going to be about. And I think this was an awesome discussion today. And I really appreciate your vulnerability and how much you shared, Nate. The impact, as you know, because you've just experienced it, when you made that LinkedIn post, that LinkedIn post actually had a profound effect on me. So as well. And I saw it I think it was a Friday you posted it. Was it a Friday or a Thursday? What?
Thursday night.
Yeah, I was going to say a Thursday. So I saw it on that Saturday, and I meant to respond to it, but it kicked off about 6 weeks of focus around suicidal ideation for me. And so I'd be happy to share it with you another time, but I just wanted to say thank you as well, because it was all good stuff, but with some tough memories wrapped around it. But as are most, mental health and tough topics, right?
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I got to put a plug out there. If you have access to transcranial magnetic stimulation, if you have access to EMDR, those are fantastic mechanisms for helping with suicidal ideations, with depression, with anxiety.
I did a lot of EMDR for the sexual abuse I went through in childhood, and some PTSD, and so I can second that. But I have not heard of the first one. So can you say it again?
It's transcranial magnetic stimulation.
Transcranial magnetic stimulation. Okay,
Yeah.
I think I have heard of it actually. I just need to.
TMS or ETMS is what it's referred to, and it's total layman's description. A big heavy magnet helps realign parts of your brain.
Cool.
And it's fantastic. But I'm again, cause and effect. I'm thrilled that I was able to generate some effect out there that helped you. And it's even just now thinking about it, the idea of, well, what is cause and what is effect, and how can we even attempt to label them?
Right.
Because it really is, now this is where the ripples come in. It's the ripples and the echoes across the universe, and in the world that we live in, where we don't know if it's the trough of a wave or if it's the peak of a wave. We just know it's a wave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nate, I love chatting with you.
Same.
I've enjoyed not only today's conversation, but just the conversations that you and I have had and shared through our friendship. And so I just really appreciate you, as Cate said, being vulnerable. I think for one, uh, I tend to find it's even more impactful when men are vulnerable, just because society sometimes doesn't always find it appreciative or accepting or whatever word people might choose. So I think that it is even more important that we have voices like yours that are helping others understand that they're not alone. I do also want to say and encourage people that if we've touched on a lot of difficult topics today. And if these things have triggered you, please go find someone to speak with, find a therapist, find someone you care about, because these things can have a ripple effect also that way. And so I do want to sort of acknowledge that as well. If you need to reach out to someone, reach out to us, call the, suicide hotline, things like that. There are resources out there. So I do want to just encourage people to find someone to talk to. And again, Nate, thank you so much. Cate, thank you as well. Thank you to our audience for all of the interaction. I'm going to leave it with Steve, LYNNS. I'm not sure what the extra N is, but love you. Maybe definitely no shit. And so also, as you guys, I don't know if you've noticed, but at the end, as we leave things, if you want to leave a parting message, we then pull it up at the end. That's something we've started to do. So give us maybe your final thoughts or a thank you to Nate. And so again, thank you, everyone. Cate and I will be back next week, where we will be talking about our own cause and effect in life. That one's actually going to be labeled Butterfly Effect and is already posted out there. We did have a change. We'll be reporting that someone had to cancel as one of the panelists, but I already have a replacement. And so we will be communicating that as well. So please come back. We have next Friday will be Cate and myself. Will be taking a vacation for Memorial Day weekend on the 23rd, and then we'll be back on the 30th with our panel. And again, final thank you, Nate.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Appreciate you both.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.